Good morning, and thanks again for listening, everybody. I'm very excited. We have a celebrity, a Tony Award winner on the phone with us, Joe DiPierto, and he won two Tony Awards for co-writing Memphis the Musical. Welcome, Joe.
Thanks very much. Happy to be here.
Yes, now, you have a really great resume, and I know people are going to be interested in hearing all about this, but I just don't even know where to start. So let's start with Memphis the Musical itself. This show kicks off our Broadway season, and it's coming to the Hanover Theater November 1st through 3rd. I love the the call-out phrase, turn up that dial, right? And so it's all about the underground dance clubs of the 1950s, and there's a lot of explosive dancing, which I love, and what's described as irresistible songs, and a thrilling stage, and a great tale. And so, wow, you've been busy, Joe.
Yes, I'm not responsible for all the dancing and things, but it's definitely a very, I think, entertaining show and has a lot of dancing. But the story at the heart of Memphis is actually about, it's a fictional story based on some real people about the first white disc jockey to play rhythm and blues music in the center of the radio dial in the early 1950s in Memphis, Tennessee.
Now, what a brave person right there. Brave.
Absolutely. And it was actually an act of bravery, and he was also our lead character, Huey Calhoun. He was also a guy who just loved this music and sort of had, and the radio was segregated at the time like the rest of society was, so to listen to really black-influenced music, you needed to go to the edge of the radio dials, which didn't have great reception and didn't have wide-reaching reception. So, and then our character Huey was the first sort of mainstream disc jockey to play the music right in the center of the radio dial. So suddenly, and this was sort of the dawn of rock and roll, so suddenly teenagers of all types of teenagers were hearing this music for the first time.
Oh, and it's so symbolic.
And it's very much about that era, and our hero also falls in love with a wonderful African-American singer. And so they start having an interracial relationship, which was not only dangerous, but illegal at the time. So it's very much about that time period and how the power of a few people and the power of music and art can change the world.
Oh, it's fabulous. And what I was going to say is it's so symbolic. Each thing you're talking about, I love the fact that it's based on true events and true people who are heroes of their times and really cutting edge as far as the music and really getting to the youth, so that the youth really bring about the change in what's acceptable and with the music. How did you get interested in this story?
Well, it's based on a real character, a real person, and essentially a producer had read a chapter in a book about this gentleman whose real name was Dewey Phillips, and I'm a firm believer that the story of race is the story of America and such an important story to our country and our heritage. And when I was brought this story idea, I thought that is a great way of analyzing race in America in a way that I had never thought about, which is essentially the DJs, the gatekeepers of the radio were, they were very instrumental in getting this music out to a lot of people. And there were many DJs at the time. Alan Freed was probably the most famous of them, who started to do this at the time. And it was controversial and dangerous, and people thought rock and roll was just a fad that was going to go away, and obviously it did not. But so I just thought, God, what a great untold American story! This tale of how these radio DJs helped in their own way to change the world.
Absolutely. There are so many different parts to analyze and discuss, and I know that our Director of Education, Megan Patrick, is completely thrilled to be doing some great educational programming around this musical with some of our local schools in the Worcester area, so that's really great. And, this is a musical that people in Worcester may not have heard of if they're not frequent Broadway theater goers. And so it's a great opportunity to really bring this Tony Award winner for Best Musical here to Worcester with all of the content that goes along with it. And just so that everybody really understands how fabulously received this musical has been, it also received, so the 2010 Tony for Drama Desk and Outer Critics Circle Awards for Best Musical. You were nominated for a Tony Award and won a Drama Desk Award for the book, and also your current Broadway show, Nice Work If You Can Get It, starring Matthew Broderick. So if anybody is going to New York City, go check that out. Is that still playing?
It actually, unfortunately not. I
was just going to say, I think it just,
And Matthew was in it for well over a year before he left, so it's not. But that'll be touring soon too, so hopefully it'll be coming your way.
Right. We'll be talking to you again about that when it comes to the Hanover Theater. But so your other plays and musicals include I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change, which was the longest running musical review in off-Broadway history, and of course, the title in and of itself is perfect. Now, of course, we all want to change the other perfect person into a more perfect person.
It's very true, yes.
It is. It's hysterical. And then, let's see, you have The Toxic Avenger and The Thing About Men, both winners of the Outer Critics Circle Award for Best Off-Broadway Musicals. Good grief. Yes. You're also an Edgar Award winner for Best Mystery Play. And your work, it's been in thousands of productions all around the world. So that's got to feel really good.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate. I'm very much a theater animal. I really love theater, and I believe in its power. I think theater is such a unique art form because I think when a show is working and a musical or play are just grabbing an audience, it really, there's nothing else like it, and it really has the power to transform you.
It has the power to transform people of all different ages and backgrounds, and it's a big unifier. So we're very much into it as well. Just curious, how did you get your start as a musical theater guy?
I actually grew up in New Jersey, sort of in the shadow of New York theater and Broadway, and my parents would always take us to see one or two shows a year, and this was during the 1970s, so I saw a bunch of classic shows like The Wiz and Annie and 1776, and I just sort of fell in love with it, and for whatever reason I had in the back of my head, someday I'm going to do this. I'm going to write for theater, and I was an English major in college, and then I graduated, and I got a job in advertising, and I would write at night, and for many, many years, no one cared. But I would work on plays and things and scripts, and then finally I'd written a bunch of sketches about people dating in their 20s, which was based on me and all my friends, obviously, and a little comedy, and I was playing these little comedy sort of theaters in New York, and the producer saw it and said, this is a musical review, put music in it, and I didn't even know what that was, and then I hooked up with a composer, and that show eventually became I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change, which was so basically, it's because I always get, kids always ask me, how did you get your career, and there was no mystery, it was essentially, I had a big passion to do it, and I worked really hard, and I just kept trying to get better and better at it. I always call myself a lifelong student of theater and literature and art and people. I mean, to know to work in the arts, I think you need to know people, more so than anything. So I just constantly work at it and try to, see as much as I can and have his opinions as much as I can on many type of things. But I just love it.
Oh, and it shows. And so you know what? You're a perfect example of somebody who loves what they're doing and then really exceeds all expectations, I think, of, a boy from New Jersey growing up and being the Tony Award winner for Best Musical in multiple ways. So that's fabulous. And this is a really great musical. I can't wait for people to share it. I can't wait for the kids at the different schools that we're working with to see it, to talk about it. And, these themes never grow old. I think that a lot, they're universal and they're timeless.
Absolutely. It's interesting, when David Bryan and I, who wrote the music to the show, when we wrote the show, we were really writing it just because we thought it was a great story and a story that we had to tell. And what surprised me, and not so much surprising, but something we hadn't even thought about, was when teenagers would sit in the audience, a lot of them after the show would turn to their parents and say, was it really like this then? Like they really had no idea what segregation was. Which was amazing. The show's an amazing history lesson in especially for younger people, just taking them back to a time that is almost incomprehensible, which was, only 50 years ago, but it's almost incomprehensible to them now.
Absolutely, especially for people who live here in Massachusetts. It's very hard for us to understand that this existed. And it was only 50 years ago, like you said. So thank you so much for doing all this great work on Memphis the Musical. It's been so fabulous having you on the program. Again, Memphis the Musical is coming to the Hanover Theater November 1st through 3rd. You can get more information and tickets at thehanovertheater.org. And Joe, pleasure having you. Can't wait to see you at the theater. Hopefully you'll make it out here to the Whoop. See you all at the theater and have a great day.